Kia ora koutou everybody, ko Juliet Collins toko ingoa, ko Tumuaki Tururua, ko Rangiruru. My name's Juliet Collins and I'm the Deputy Principal here at Rangiruru, and thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate how valuable everybody's time is. Look, it's 6 o'clock and it's not even dark. That's a really great sign, isn't it, that we're looking forward to good things to come. I really appreciate you being here and particularly your interest in how things operate here at Rangiruru for your daughters. So this is particularly focused on Year 10 parents, on the audience for prep for them, but happy to answer any questions either as we go along. A little bit of an introduction. I could talk, would be the only possibility of an Olympic medal I would ever get, so I will try to just restrain that a bit, but explain the ways that NCEA is going to operate for us and our beliefs at Rangiruru. The mechanics of NCEA, so if you're absolutely brand new and have no experience with NCEA, then I'm going to explain how it works, because those things haven't changed, and then a little bit of what it's like now for your Year 10 daughter and what the next steps will be picking her NCEA subjects for next year. So kind of rolling along that way. So the New Zealand Certificate of Educational Achievement, NCEA, is of course still currently our main qualification for New Zealand secondary school students. 3 levels on the qualifications framework, level 1, 2 and 3, pretty much correlating with Year 11, Year 12 and Year 13. And university entrance is a qualification that is achieved at the same time as level 3 or alongside level 3. Some similar requirements, some things that cross over, and some additional requirements. So I'll just outline all of those things as we go along. Level 2. Level 2, entry level really for most qualifications. Certainly that is the sort of base level that you would be wanting to aim for tertiary education. And also it's a really important year because as you apply for university when you're in Year 13 and when you're aiming to get level 3, and halls applications and scholarship applications for universities. Of course, you don't actually have level 3 when you're applying for those things, but you have level 2. So the quality of the level 2 qualification is really, really important. There you are, level 3 and UE is a requirement for university entrance for 99.9% of people. And tertiary training courses. It's the leaving qualification our students are aiming for. All right, so I thought I'd start with this because this might be the burning topic, which is what are we doing at Rangiruru? So with the changes that the government has recently announced to NCEA, this is significant. There's been significant changes in the air for some years. So the announcements came as no surprise. I guess one thing that is a little surprising is how long they're taking to transition this qualification out and the new one in. Plays beautifully into our philosophy here at Rangiruru, which is preparing your daughters for the best qualification that they can leave school with. Now, the idea that level 1 has disappeared is a little bit of that, fake news stuff, but also it has always been optional. So to say, well, it's, lots of schools aren't doing it, that's true, and it has always been the case. So for many years, schools like Lincoln High School, for example, has not done level 1. They've done a foundation course and gone into level 2. Christ College, they've been doing their foundation course across Year 10 and Year 11 for, 5 years? And 5 years, and then, so they don't do level 1 either. We have maintained our belief that level 1 is an excellent foundation for your daughter's qualifications for level 2, and we stand by that. At the same time, we're good, quick pivoters, and if there was to be some change in the next short while, which we've heard nothing since the main announcement, by the way, so that seems unlikely. If there were to be some massive change which we didn't like, we would be prepared to pivot around that. But really our belief is that we will proceed with the level 1 qualification as a fantastic foundation of not just learning, but of practice around assessment. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. So, at level 1, there are, and I'm going to explain the mechanics of it, but suffice to say that there are 4 major assessment points for level 1. 2 of them are internal and 2 of them are external. We will not do all 4. You don't need that many credits. You need the content and you need the learning, but you do not necessarily need the assessment. So we will do 2 or 3 of those. That's what we're currently doing. That's what we did last year. That's what we're doing this year. That's what we will continue to do next year. So we are really firmly believing that things are going really well in that regard. We don't want to over-assess, we don't want to credit gather, we've never done that. But your daughters, we would anticipate that they will learn more than they're assessed on, which forms the foundation for the ongoing learning for level 2. The co-requisites are in place for NCEA. So this is the 3rd year of the NCEA co-requisite. So that is a literacy and numeracy requirement that students need to pass in order to get anything on the New Zealand qualification framework, level 1, level 2 or level 3. So it has to be done. In fact, week after next, I think your daughters are doing that co-requisite. 20 credits, and it's a common assessment activity done across the country, 2 assessments in literacy and 1 in numeracy. Literacy one's reading with 5 credits, writing with 5 credits, and numeracy with 10 credits. Baseline level literacy and numeracy. And we do this, we don't offer 2 opportunities in the year for your daughters. We're just offering the 1 opportunity, the second one where they've done more learning, so they're more likely to be prepared, and we don't want to actually say halfway through the year, some of you have got that literacy already and some of you haven't. So we've just gone with carrying on through doing it at the second opportunity, which is the September opportunity. But if your daughter doesn't succeed in that, doesn't pass that, then there is another opportunity next year in the June, and then another one again in September. So the only students that we put through the June ones were a few year 11s that hadn't been successful in achieving that last year for a variety of reasons. Some were just absent. So it's not like it was when I was at school. Absolutely true. It isn't. And some of you wouldn't have even been in New Zealand to do your qualifications anyway. So I really appreciate that it's a mind shift for parents, which has been a tricky thing for NCEA. And I guess that's the thing about big change, is that when we're haven't experienced it ourselves, understanding the mechanics of it feels quite scary. It's not a new qualification, of course. 20 years we've had NCEA, but it isn't like it was when I was at school. And I have to say thank goodness for that. For those of you who struggled through school cert, university entrance and then university bursaries. Yeah? Okay, so 3 levels of qualification completely unrelated to each other, I might add, both in content and structure, with norm referencing. So at 15, 50% of the country were labelled as not okay. Okay, then university entrance, accredited or not accredited, or what was all that about? And then university bursaries was a qualification administered by the universities, not by schools at all. So when people say, well, I don't understand this NCEA, it's not very good, etc., I tell you what, it's an awful lot better than what it replaced. because actually the learning that students are doing is bigger, it's big picture. There's much more interest in analysing information, synthesising information, developing ideas, discussing ideas than rote learning. So it has a huge advantage in what your daughters are actually learning and doing as a result. So it's true. It's not like it was when I was at school, but that doesn't make it bad. It took me a long time to say that, didn't it? Sorry about that. The big difference, I think, is that assessments happen all year long. So unlike some of those other things I described, school certificate was an absolute classic where you could do virtually nothing all year and actually pass quite happily, go to the exam, do quite well, and actually forget the information the next day. Remember that. So none of that is going to work anymore. The assessments are constant and various times during the year. So it's not all just one exam at the end. So the refinements made between 2024 to 2025, last year was the first year of new assessments, and it was a real battle. It was tough, and for the students particularly, the change with that was difficult. This year is much better. So there's been quite a lot of change between 2024 and 2025, which is really great news for your daughters doing it in 2026. So standards-based assessment, so that is a set of parameters written by the ministry and overseen in terms of the qualification by the New Zealand Qualifications Authority. And the two types of assessment, unit standards and achievement standards. I really only mention the unit standards because the literacy and numeracy that your daughters are doing are unit standards. Unit standards are really kind of mastery stuff. You can either do it or you can't do it. That's the kind of thing about unit standards. Virtually every other assessment that we do through Rangiruru is achievement standards, which have complex layers of achievement built into them. Media misinformation is rife. So I think that this whole thing about there's going to be more jobs in hospitality under a new qualification. What? How is that even possible? You know, surely more jobs in hospitality has got to do with the economy rather than actually what they're doing at age 15 at school. Okay, so just a couple of things because education loves acronyms, right? And we're rife with it. So National Certificate of Educational Achievement, New Zealand Qualifications Authority, they issue the qualifications. Level 1, Level 2, Level 3, they oversee the assessment of all of the external assessments and the moderation of all of the internal assessments. But they don't write the content. The ministry owns that. So the Ministry of Education owns the curriculum and owns the content, and the assessments that come out of that are administered and overseen by the Qualifications Authority, which contributes to this. Yeah. Okay. So how does the package work of NCEA? So it's in 3 levels, as we've said. It's Level 1, Level 2 and Level 3. And the steps indicate here increasing levels of complexity in the thinking. So Level 1 is reasonably foundational. Level 2 is a decent step up in terms of the complexity of the work, as you might expect, and what's required in the standards. And Level 3 is a step up again. No surprises there. As you go through, things will become harder, is the bottom line with that. And then university entrance, which I've said is another qualification which we aim to get at the same time as the students are doing Level 3. And the co-requisites sit alongside. So your daughters, the reason that they're doing them this year, Year 10, is so that they don't have to worry about those next year when they're starting Level 1. So that's the rationale for that. Plus they're virtually all ready for it, ready for that qualification. So, and that's quite nice. It's reassuring. They tuck that into their back pockets and away they go. There's something about the confidence of having got that for the vast majority of them that sets them up really nicely to not have to either think about those things for level 2. For some of them, these things are, the actual tests themselves are pretty straightforward. Okay, so this is just a little bit about the literacy and numeracy that your daughters are doing. So they will do a reading standard, a writing standard, and a numeracy standard in order to gain those 5, 5, and 10 credits. So yes, it's all or nothing on the day. However, if they don't pass, we actually get feedback about what they needed to do and which bit of their paper they didn't do so well in. It's the only feedback. It's the only thing we get feedback about. So you get no feedback if you pass. You've just got that, but some feedback to help with the next session. So that's really useful. Okay, so how to find out information for us here. There are 3 kind of main ways of finding information for, excuse me, for your daughter for what they're going to do for level 1. So I'm going to shift a little bit to thinking about you're going into level 1 now and what that's going to look like. So the curriculum handbook, which is live on the hub, there is the 2026 curriculum handbook is on the hub. Next week I send it home to you via email. So that goes out alongside the subject selection information, and there's an event on the afternoon of the 4th of September where your daughters can come and talk to all of the teachers about if they don't know what health education is going to look like in year 10, for example. You can come too if you want. It's very much a speed dating event. It's an hour long, and you get, it's good. Actually, you get good information and you get the subject experts standing there talking about their subjects without selling them to your daughters. So, what's compulsory? English, maths and science, and English and mathematics and science potentially are all 4 hours a week, 4 periods a week, 4 of English, 4 of mathematics, and it depends what science you choose. That's the complexity, and I'm going to come to that. Then I'm going to come back to your question. So PE and health is a compulsory PE and health 2 periods a week. Te Ara, which is our pathway program, 1 period a week, totaling 27 periods in total across the week. However, science has 4 choices. So there is a choice of biology only. There is a choice of general science, where physics, chemistry, and biology are covered off. There's the really cunningly named double science, where you do double the amount, physical science and biological science, 8 hours a week. And for 2026, there is health studies. We offered this in 2025 as well, but we didn't get enough to make a class of that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Depending on what science your daughter chooses, she will make 2 or 3 other choices. Obviously, she'll make 2 choices only if you've chosen double science, 3 choices for other subjects if you choose one of the single science options. Is it getting confusing yet? It's all right? We're doing all right? Great. So I've made a diagram. I've got 2 diagrams. Wait for it. Okay. Can you see that I discovered the design button down the side of PowerPoint quite recently? Okay. My advice. English, maths are compulsory. We've taken care of that. First decision to make is that for your daughter to pick which science she's going to do. By the way, I've delivered this message to them too. I've had all of them. So firstly, pick which science. Do it based on the other things that you're interested in. Science or double science. 2 choices or 3 other choices. So double science can prepare you more for tri-sci in year 12. So physics, chemistry and biology as individual subjects. And probably if you wanted to do vet science, veterinary science, you would probably choose double science. General science does that also if you want to keep more options. So I guess general science is by far our most popular. This year we've got 4 general science classes, we've got 2 double science classes, and we've got 1 biology class. So lots, and then our retention in sciences is huge. So lots of students who've done single general science will go on and do physics, chemistry, and biology. Okay, so it's just a choice about keeping more subjects, keeping your options more open. I guess sometimes if you absolutely adore science and it really gets you out of bed in the morning, then 8 periods a week doesn't seem that daunting. If science is a struggle, then that's going to be miserable. So clearly they're going to want to choose one of the other ones. Have to choose one. So biology, you could say, because it's only one context, general science has got 3 contexts, right? Physics, chemistry, and biology. Biology's only got 1 context. So do the maths. It's going to be easier, more straightforward to do biology. Okay? General science is the 3. And then health studies is focused on a personal context. So for a lot of students that don't want to think big science, but they might want to think more about issues to do with their own personal contexts, health studies is the way. Okay?
So if you were doing,
So excited to get to my next diagram. So here's the pathways going forward, because this is important, right? So if you do this in this year, what can you do in the following year? What can you do in the following year? What have you cut off yourself from doing? So this beautiful visual has taken, can you tell I designed this? So just follow the colours. If you choose biology, in year 12 you can choose biology, or you can choose health, or you can choose the new subject, Science for Citizenship. Science for Citizenship is a fantastic course that is issues-based, and it's not designed for, it's not pure science, so it's really more for people who might want to do law or journalism, who are really interested in scientific contexts and in things that impact our world, but it's not pure science. So there's that option becomes available. If you do general science, you can pick anything. If you do double science, you can pick anything. If you pick health, then you can just pick health for year 12 or science for citizenship. And then so this goes on. How are my arrows? Have I made any mistakes? If you do science for citizenship in year 12, you can come into biology, science for citizenship, or health. I know, it takes days to sort this out. Basically, if you want to do medicine, then you would be doing tri-sci in year 12 without question. Okay? And you've got virtually no change in your choices of subjects between year 12 and year 13. Whether you choose double science in year 11 or general science, doesn't really matter. If you're struggling a wee bit with science, but you're determined to have a medicine pathway, then do double science, because you'll need that extra time. Okay? If you want to do nursing, then you need to do biology in year 12. So you would do biology and you might do health as well. Could be really useful. If you want to do engineering, you have to do physics and calculus. So but most of your daughters would be unlikely to have fixed pathways at this stage. Some might, but many wouldn't, which is why we've said English and maths is compulsory. We're not going to let you stop that, okay? And we're not going to let you stop A science. But if you're unsure and don't know what your pathway is going to be, for goodness sake, choose general science. Because you're not losing anything by doing that. But if learning is a struggle, and 3 contexts, because it's pretty pacey, and 3 contexts is too much, think about biology or health studies. But you might want to do general science and health, which is another option. So these are when you're choosing 2 subjects or 3 subjects, these are the other subjects that you can choose from in year 11. So you can see that health studies is still that. So you could choose general science and health studies, or biology and health studies. So what does your daughter need for level 1? So she's got all these subjects, right? So you've got these courses and these subjects. So within that course, level 1, 2024 and beyond, so that's us, she needs 60 credits at level 1. 60 credits. If you had anyone got an older child or an older daughter, a couple of years older, so they might have needed 80 at that point to get level 1. But now we've got the 20 as the co-requisite, so you need 60 there. There are two kinds of assessments, internal assessments and external assessments. Internal assessments are completed over usually longer periods of time. They are marked and moderated at school, and there is a rigorous process of moderation that goes on to ensure their authenticity of all of that, of that. And then externals are exams, administered by NCEA at the end of the year in November. So, how to find out what course your daughter should do and how many credits will be in that course. So, we have the hub, and on the hub there is a, doesn't look like this, these are all separate screens, and I've done a really attractive collage here, cut and paste, and it took me about, I don't know, half an hour to draw that red thing with the arrows. I could have done that by hand really quickly, but nonetheless. So on the hub, there's a curriculum and learning portal. So click on that, and in fact, you can see that I've hearted it. So I would really recommend that you do that, because what could be more wonderful than having the curriculum come up every time you open the hub? So save it as a favourite. Then you've got courses and subjects, and you would click on that, and you would see a list like this that shows the programs of learning, the courses that we do at every single level, and what the assessments in those are. Are you familiar with this? Have you had a look at this? This is really useful. If your daughter's trying to decide what level 1 textiles consists of, then have a look here and look at the level 1 course. Okay, because there will be some changes, of course, from year to year, but it will be fundamentally the same type of thing. Certainly, we're using the same assessment matrix. 2 internals, 2 externals. Which ones are textiles doing? This will tell you what they're doing. There's a longer list than that. You can see economics has actually made it into this one. Yes. It's alphabetical. Right, so now we get on to talking about your question from some time ago. Each course is made up of a number of achievement standards. In the case of level 1, there are either 2 or 3. And they are worth a number of credits, and they are virtually all worth 5 credits each. And it's 5 or nothing. So it is 5 or nothing for the achievement standards as well, but you can get those credits at achieved level or merit level or excellence level. So there is a rubric that tells you what is required for achieved, what is required for merit, and what is required for excellence. And it doesn't mean more work. More work does not equate to a higher grade. A greater understanding of the content and presentation of that is what equates to a higher grade. So each of the standards in every course will have built into it more analysis, more discussion, more synthesis of the material, more explanation to give you a higher grade. Is that clear? Because I really feel sorry when the girls come and they say, I want to make an appeal on my assessment because I worked so hard on it. And of course they worked so hard on it, but unfortunately that doesn't equate to a greater understanding of that content. Does that help? So you can get those at achieved merit or excellence. So I said before about they're either internal or external. Internals are marked and moderated here at Rangi. Externals are administered by NCEA. One external is in the form of an exam. Sometimes the other one is a portfolio. There is a national checking system for internals. So we get a random list at the beginning of each year of what standards we have to present for moderation, and they get checked by NCEA, the judgments and the work. So this is an English assessment matrix. This is straight off the ministry, excuse me, the ministry website. So there are 4 standards in all of the level 1 courses. They're very cunningly labelled 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 and 1.4, rocket science, right? So, but they have different, describe different things that the students need to study, and they, more importantly, they tell you the mode of assessment here. So 2 internals, 2 externals. So our English course at the moment is comprised of those 2 and that 1. Okay? So they learn about this, which is ideas and writing, but that's not part of the assessment portfolio. The program of learning that's on the hub will tell you which ones we're doing for each course and often also when the assessments are likely to be. So, what's the carrot? And I guess that's a thing that has been one of the things that the media has liked to say, is that there's no reward in NCEA, and there's no difference between getting 90 and getting 80. That's an excellence for. That you get the same outcome for the 2 things, and it's true, you do. So you can imagine that an achieved is kind of, if you had to put it on a scale of grades, it would be what, 50 to 65, I guess, and then a merit would be sort of 66 to probably 80, and then an excellence would be 80 to 100. So yes, there's a range in each one of those, and you might fall at the middle of that grade range, you might fall at the lower end, and where you've just got the merit, well, go you. Where you might fall at the top of it, just below the excellence, well, you just have to know what you've got to do next time to get over that. But what you do get is a certificate endorsement. So you can get subject endorsement and you can get certificate endorsement. So if you get 50 credits of the 60 at either merit or excellence, then you get your certificate endorsed with merit or with excellence. If you get a combination of 30 excellence credits and 20 merit credits, you'll get a merit endorsement. And you can also get you just get your certificate. So that's important. That's a thing to aim for. It's quite a big percentage of your 60 at that level. And that, interestingly, in the changes that NCEA brought in, that didn't change. So it's harder now for your daughters and for this year's students and for last year's level 1 to actually get that certificate endorsement, but it's still really worth aiming for. Subject endorsement is 14 credits, merit and excellence in a single subject, and it has to be made up of internals and externals. I don't know why they went for 14 when everything's worth 5 credits, but that was just lazy because they just didn't bother to change it from what it had always been. So subject endorsement, that's really great. So if you're really, really good at art, for instance, then you can get your subject endorsed with excellence, but you might not get your certificate endorsed. The great thing about certificate endorsement is you can get, that can come from any year. It doesn't have to come from a single year. So if your daughter is doing accelerated maths this year, for example, then that counts towards next year's endorsement. They may get subject endorsement this year, but you can't add some credits from this year in maths and some credits from next year in maths to make a subject endorsement, but you can add them to make a certificate. Okay, I've lost you completely. I can see everyone's glazing over. It's getting too complicated. Okay, these are carrots, these are rewards, and it's worth aiming for them. Okay, enough. Whew. All right, level 2 is 60 credits, level 3 is 60 credits, at that level or higher. So that's the increasing complexity of the work. University entrance, we'll just quickly go over this, is again the 60 credits, but to get you, so you have to get level 3, so you have to get 60 credits, but you have to get 3 packages of 14 credits in that, in individual subjects. So you could get 14 credits in English, 14 credits in history, and 14 credits in economics. Okay? Doesn't matter whether they're internals or externals, that doesn't matter, but 14. And what that is saying, simply, is that I can sustain a course. I can actually see something through to a reasonable degree, and have some rigour about it. So that's what that's saying. Whereas level 3, and this has been a criticism, you can do a whole range of different types of credits, barista, management credits that you might get from working at McDonald's, etc., that contribute to level 3, but they will not count for UE. Now, none of the subjects that we do here at Rangi at level 3 are not UE endorsed. So we only are doing subjects that do contribute to UE at level 3. For a whole variety of reasons, because that's what we want, it's what we're aiming for with your daughters, is to give them the highest possible qualification that they can get. So just to give you some ideas about, so we're nearly there, just to come into the sort of how we do, because you've made a significant investment in the outcome of your daughters, and we understand that. We take that responsibility really seriously, and we too have high expectations, and a robust group of teachers that really believe in in their subjects and want your daughters to also do really well. So we want to this is really unfair, comparing us to national outcomes, but it makes us look really good. Okay? So level 1 last year, and I remember I said it was getting harder to get the endorsements for level 1. It truly is, but I guess we did incredibly well overall in the certificate, 97.6, so there were a couple of students, so we had 130 candidates. So I think there were 4 students that didn't get level 1 last year, quite high. One left really early on in the year and went back overseas, etc., etc. So there's always a really good reason. One thing that I think we promise quite a lot is no surprises, that if we think there's going to be, if your daughter gets a not achieved in an assessment, so doesn't make it, then you will get a message telling you that, and that's one of the things that we do. And if they're not meeting the milestones and the checkpoints during the learning for that assessment, you will also get a message saying that. Because, this is partnership, right? So we're all in this together for your daughter's success, but nice on it for us. So although our merits are lower, of course that's because our excellences are higher nationally. So we feel really good about that. We probably feel really good about this too. So, except that I forgot to say that that's really cruel. That's doubly cruel, because lots of schools are not doing level 1. So that makes us look really, really good. Okay, because we are, but unfair. Bit fairer comparison in this one. There's the national statistic for level 2 and our statistic for level 2, and I guess the number of excellences, the endorsements of excellences, we feel good about that. So if you think about it with level 2 and the endorsement, that's what these students will have actually achieved when they're applying for halls of residence, university scholarships, for gap placements overseas, whatever it is that they're applying for, that's the qualification that they have. So that's why we put so much emphasis on level 2, which is why we put so much emphasis on level 1. Because how do you know how to really do well in an assessment, an internal assessment that runs across 6 weeks, that requires you to meet milestones and get feedback from your teachers and then respond to that feedback and then do something else if you haven't practiced it? So level 1 provides the opportunity to do that before it becomes this high stakes. It also provides you with the opportunity to realise how to sit an exam, how to manage your anxiety sitting in a hall with 100 other students sitting an exam and you've got 3 hours to do it. What's the best way of working out how to do that is to do it, is to actually have that practice. So while it's level 1 and while it's less high stakes in terms of the outcomes, we want your daughters to have had that practice. Now, if we said, well, actually, we're going to do that course anyway, but we're not going to give you the qualification, and the outcomes don't actually matter for level 1, I don't think that's quite enough carrot. Aren't most of them going to say, well, this doesn't matter? Because they say that quite a lot about if they've already got the credits anyway. This doesn't actually matter. They say that about the school practice exams. This doesn't really matter. Well, it doesn't matter until you need those grades. So those sorts of habits, those study skill habits, those things where they have to go off into their room and they have to leave their phone with you while they go and do some study because they've got an assessment tomorrow. Those things that you have to negotiate at home, they require practice, right? So that's why we believe that level 1 still has so much value. Plus, we're teaching girls. We're teaching girls, and they like to know what to expect. Risk-taking is not one of their strong characteristics. And this is across the board with them. They like to know what to expect. They like to be prepared. And so they are. So we're teaching them how to do that, how to be prepared for that. That's why we're sticking with level 1 and why we believe it prepares them so well for level 2. And we're assuming, given that you're leaving your daughters here, you're on board with us with that. So remember that there's goals beyond level 1. Right, level 3, so this is what they're leaving with. This is the one I'm really proud of, because this is the hardest qualification to get. And this is what, look, whether your daughters are going to university or not, do I care? I sort of do. I do care. I do care about what it is they do. But it's not the motivation for them, for me, wanting them to get this qualification. The motivation is for them to have the choice, for them to have the option of doing that. It's a ticket, you know, it's a passport for them onto the next stage. And it's, if they don't go that year or they want to go the following year, of course they've still got that. But they've got their qualification. And so incredibly proud of our students, our teachers, the whole package, that we have a UE statistic that is the same as level 3. And you can see that even at 68.2, which is what that's supposed to be, 46.2, so many students don't get university entrance. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's lots of other options for people aside from university, especially when you consider the costs and the pathways of those things. But your daughters are going to have the choice. And that's what we're aiming to do. That's where the partnership sits. So, this is the last slide. This is number 26. So, I really want to say thank you for trusting us with your daughters' education, trusting us that we will make decisions that we believe are founded in experience and data to help them to produce, to be their best while they're here, and really seeking the highest.